Uh, we need to pass a slate of resolutions for a DSA for all. And why do we have to do it there? Because urgency is actually not optional, right? We have 10 years on climate change. We have 10 years on the rising fascism in the United States, and liberalism can't win. Only DSA can win. Only socialism can win. So we need to move now. We need to be a party of millions soon. We need to be able to compete at every level. So we need to be really ambitious. And so our approach this year is an approach of ambition, of reaching high. And that's what DSA for all is creating a DSA that is responsive to all of its members, that is a DSA that is for all members, that fights for all. And so the big things we're focused on this year are first a plan to fight the far right, to build our infrastructure, to get out in the streets, to confront fascism right here and right now. We don't have a national program really to do this. We don't really have a national orientation against the far right. But this is existential for us. This is existential for the country. The we see with the ICE raids, with everything the Trump administration has done, that like we are backed up against the wall. So we need to reorient DSA to fight the far right, to protect ourselves, to fight in the streets, but also to build up a level of infrastructure that can survive and thrive going forward. The second thing we want to do is to create a DSA that can win in 2028. What's coming in 2028? A presidential election, obviously, but also on May 1st, a potential general strike. So we need to be ready for that. At the national level, we need to build out that infrastructure. And then the last thing is we have a DSA where a lot of people are checked out of the national organization, and for good reason. The national organization, it doesn't give you a lot of obvious stuff right now, with some exceptions. There's not a lot of ways for your voice to be heard at the national level. If the NPC does something, uh, like how do you influence them? Only a small group of people with like soft power can do that, and that's wrong. I mean, how many people here can even name most of the people on the NPC right now? Probably not most of you. So the last thing we have to do is we have to strongly democratize DSA by giving the actual membership of DSA the right to and the ability to weigh in on our decisions, to weigh in on who we're endorsing for president, to weigh in on who our leadership is. So that's kind of the three prongs of DSA for all. And so I'm really excited about that. And now I'm gonna kind of hand it off to our NPC slate. So the first person I want to introduce, he's the current co-chair of DSA. He is from Wilmington, North Carolina, standing at 6'6". That's not true. It's we have Ashik Sadiq. So Ashik, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello, comrades. So my name is Ashik. Very excited to have some of you on today. So I live now in Wilmington, North Carolina. I joined DSA when I was living in Washington, D.C. In early 2017. In the first month of Trump's presidency when he got inaugurated the first time. So I'm really reflecting a lot on that period when I first joined DSA. Now, 8 years later, when Trump is president the second time, when having been co-chair of this organization for the past year and a half and now running for re-election, I'm just feeling really grounded in just all the experiences that led me here. Like I really feel like I'm only co-chair of DSA, this national organization with now 80,000 members, because I just kind of kept saying yes to things and I was encouraged to do things because I had the support of really great comrades through a lot of organizing experience on campaigns, like in my chapter, at the national level, with eco-socialist work. And now, having been in one of the largest chapters in the country, Metro DC is the third largest chapter in DSA. I'm in Wilmington, North Carolina now, which is a smaller one. And I was born and raised in New York City. New York City DSA is the largest chapter in the country, which is now running the most exciting campaign that DSA I think has run to date with Zoran Mamdani, whose election is 4 days away now. And I just am so acutely aware of all the layers of work and choices that were made to get to that point. Um, I just well, as co-chair, I've really had the privilege of meeting people from all over the country. I've traveled to parts of the country that I'd never been to before. I see comrades here from Texas and Houston. I was in, Richmond, Virginia. I was in Arizona. I was in Michigan a few weeks ago. These are all parts of the country I would not never have traveled to if they didn't have DSA chapters that are active and doing really incredible work that are part of a national organization that's increasingly starting to put together the pieces of functioning more and more like a party, but we're not quite there yet. And as co-chair of this org, I've also made connections with people in mass parties of the left all over the world. Um, Comrades from Morena in Mexico, from the PT and PSOL in Brazil, from Delinka in Germany, from France Insoumise, all these people who are fighting the rise of the right by showing that there is a real alternative that is organized by and for working class people, by workers. And um, in DSA, like we have so much to learn from comrades around the world, but I've also become aware of how much they have learned from us. When I met the Germans at a conference in Berlin a few months ago, just a month after they made a major comeback in the polls, they told me how they actually learned a lot from canvassing operations that they heard about from sending people to visit New York City DSA years ago, and they adapted those to Berlin and are now in a position to really be a bulwark of the left against the rise of the neo-Nazis who are now growing in the polls. So they're making a lot of decisions. They really iterated on a lot of what they saw across the Atlantic Ocean. A lot of comrades across Latin America, can't escape living under the shadow of the U.S. empire, but they've really learned how to defend themselves and organize against the rise of fascism that comes out of the way that the U.S. empire has oppressed them. So all of these connections are now being made in real time. Like everybody I've talked to from around the world on the left and across the United States is increasingly aware of the playbook that the right is using. That is increasingly, just the same playbook everywhere. I heard about from comrades in Hungary who talked about how the Orban government has done things and really tested the waters in ways that are now a playbook for Steve Bannon and what Trump is doing and what's happening all over the world. So the lesson for me in that, especially from visiting DSA chapters all over the country, is that I see more and more of the same conditions everywhere. Capitalists are operating the same way. I see the same, like shitty luxury condos that are popping up in Wilmington, North Carolina that look just like what you see in Bushwick and Brooklyn, in neighborhoods in LA and in Detroit. They just look the same because it's probably the few big real estate companies doing that, and they're the ones who are funding the establishment Democrats or Republicans of either party who are driving up cost of living, who are making life more and more oppressive to people everywhere. So the answer to that the solution to that is not, just retreating into our own localism, just assuming that people can, create conditions for socialism right at home, well, like in their neighborhoods. We have to be part of a national organization that is adapting, that is taking the lessons for how people are fighting the right everywhere, who are building real people power. So in Groundwork now, we're talking about just we have to contest for state power. We do that by using all the tactics across our movements. We can use street power, we can use strike power, we can bring this all together to contest what the capitalists are doing. They're always going to have way more money than us, but we have the power if we organize it, and we have playbooks across DSA that are working so well. The reason that Zoran is a top contender for mayor right now, who could become a socialist mayor of the richest city in the country, is because DSA members have spent 8 years just building a real political machine that is now making capitalists shake in their boots. And this is inspiring people all over the country. And we need to level up our national organization. We need to change DSA to be the kind of organization that is not fighting the most successful work across our org, but is actually supporting it and helping our members all over the country build the party that we need right now. The stakes are too high. The climate crisis is continuing to accelerate, but fascists are, they have a better material analysis of the world right now than liberals do and than many on the left do. And we need to change that. We need to be really grounded in reality. We need to be really, pretty ruthless about taking lessons from what has worked or not across the country and help each other build at every level we need to. So I'm really excited to be doing this again with the slate of comrades that you'll hear from tonight. I'm really excited to organize with all of you. And there's so much that makes this organization worth building. Like DSA is the organization that is going to save our planet. So solidarity.
Thank you so much, Comrade Ashik. Our next member of the slate is Alejandra from Los Angeles. So take it away.
Hi everyone, my name is Alejandra, also go by Alex, she, her pronouns, Los Angeles chapter. I'm sorry, I'm gonna be off camera after I'm done speaking because I have to get a freaking root canal tomorrow and this crap is like the numbing crap is like coming off. So if my mouth looks weird, it's because of that. But anyways, I bring that up because I've been having a tooth pain like for a whole week, but doesn't mean that we haven't not been on the streets, being a nuisance to ICE. And the pain might be a lot, but the love for our community and solidarity is even stronger. So I just wanted to say that I've been a member of DSA since 2021 when my coworkers and I unionized for the second time, and we were looking for support from people in our community. And the only few people that actually provided that support without knowing us was DSA LA. And it felt a little nerve-wracking for me because I was just like, oh, maybe I don't know enough about socialism, or maybe I'm not enough of a leftist to join this. But the labor committee was so welcoming, and actually, in fact, someone on this call here, Mark, shout out to Mark, who really kind of just like built me up as a leader and really helped me be like, hey, are you down to translate this? Are you for the Pro Act? Are you down to speak on behalf of DSA for Midday? Are you down to do this? And I just kind of like a sheik, I never said no. And just continuing to stay more and more involved. I went off to New York to study labor, and get my master's in labor, and then I was in the Bay, and then I came back to Los Angeles and continued to stay involved. So anytime I could go to a picket line, you'll see me there. And my coworkers and I have unionized 3 nonprofit workplaces now. I'm part of the Joint Labor Management Committee as part of the organizing committee and part of the bargaining committee. And basically, I think my experience organizing my workplace and also being in DSA just demonstrated to me that the power really comes from like militant rank and file organizing. So the reason why I'm also running for NPC is because that experience is something that is just so powerful that we, one, as DSA members, if we can, all be union members, right? And two, be leaders in our unions, and also just increase our party and increase the ability for working class people, brown folks like myself, like Latinas, Mexican Americans, everyone of all different ethnic backgrounds and ethnicities, etc., to understand that DSA is a place for all. And thankfully, people on this call made me feel that way, and I want to continue to extend that hand to other people. I also have an account online called All Things Labor, where I talk about worker power and organizing your workplace. And I've seen how powerful it is to use comm strategy and digital strategy to build up worker power. And it's because we actually did this in our workplace, right? Like Ashik said this too, but we know the capitalists or the bosses have the power to reach out to workers at this like at all hours. But we had the opportunity to use during the pandemic social media to get the boss to stop trying to pin like the LA folks and the Seattle folks, 'cause we were organizing at the same time. And anyways, I could go more into detail from that, but it was an incredible experience to kind of to see that and also do research on that after, of how we can use communication strategy to really build our party and to reach people. I think that Zorhan's also uh, his campaign is an example of this. And like the reason why I also want to I'm running for NPC is because I want to use my skill sets that I have as an organizer and as someone who's been doing communications, and using social media as that strategy for us, for all DSA members, for all chapters, whatever it is that we can do. And the point is just to build power, to fight back, to build a honestly not only a party but a society that is for working class folks and by working class folks. And just excited to be here and excited to see hopefully many of you at the convention in Chicago. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Alex, and feel better with the tooth. And and also, great job out there on the streets when ICE is invaded Los Angeles. Um, Next, we have somebody who's been going as hard for Zoran as anyone. Kareem Al Rafai from New York, but really from DC. Come on out, Kareem.
No, I went to New York City High School. I don't know what Ben means. apartment growing up was in the Statue of Liberty. No, hey everyone. My name is Kareem El Rafai. I am currently serving on the NPC. I'm sitting in a very dark room because I've been at the beach all day and I'm so tired. So this is very comforting for me. But I'm really excited to be on the call with you all tonight. I'm running for re-election with this great group because I think the work that we've started as Groundwork is only just in its initial stages, and I want to see that work get carried through. What we've built in New York City, I think, is a really exciting thing. And I want to see that kind of vision get projected nationally. I think, you know, one of the things that, like, when I go to the doors and like when I'm doing canvas launches with folks, the reasons that people are coming out is basically like that, you know, some people may be democratic socialists, some people may be, you know, like ideologically just like invested in what we're doing here. But a lot of times, like what's moving, you know, everyday people into action is like a recognition that something is deteriorating in our just sort of general, you know, country, our collective psyche, everything, you know, that binds us together. Things are worse than they were 10 years ago. They're worse than they were 10 years before that. And only one party is currently attempting to address that at a national stage right now, and that's the Republicans. And I think what they're projecting is really evil, and like what they're putting forward for the country is like a sort of diagnosis that pits neighbors against each other, pits workers against workers, you know, immigrants against, you know, native citizens, things like that. But the reason that Zoran has taken off is that he's been able to articulate an alternative vision to that no other Democrat really has been able to, right? Like that's really what we're building here fundamentally, is that while Democrats represent a status quo that is in total decline, and Republicans tell us that we need to hate our neighbors, we're building a politics that is fundamentally based on solidarity, that diagnoses the pain of the current moment, that diagnoses like the just sort of feeling of anguish that I think everyday people feel, and putting it into simple phrases, right? Like the rent is too high, the buses are too slow, you need childcare. So I think yeah, that's why like when we come together on election day, like we're gonna shock the world, and like whether or not we come up, you know, first or second, I think it's a clear sign that there is a real problem with the way that politics are operating. And you know what? Like, I don't want to make any predictions, but having been at the doors, having talked to voters, having felt the air in New York City right now, be ready for an upset. You know, I like as Zoran himself said, like the time of moral victories is over. Like we're going for gold here. It's time to win and time to change the world. So the reason I bring this up is to say New York's doing something great, and it's been really exciting to be a part of this. And it's been exciting to be a part of like these kind of successful programs, both in New York and DC. I got my start in Metro DC DSA in 2021, shortly after the Bernie campaign. Basically, I you know, I've been working on the campaign, traveled across the country in like 6 states, and just sort of seen, you know, like what it takes to build a movement. And then I came back after the campaign and was like seeing the worst news every day and COVID, and I was like, you know what, I need to find my political home, and I joined DSA. And ever since then, we've been building to this big moment. And I think basically every chapter has the materials to build towards their own Zoran campaign. It's just that you need to put in the work starting now, lay the groundwork, if you will, right? Like that like these things where it's like, you know, you're running candidates for office, then you get somebody who's a democratic socialist, then you build those ties with labor, then you get a chapter member who's just like some guy, you know, who decides that they're going to run for city council, and they win and they shock the political establishment in your city. There's only a couple short stops between that and somebody running for mayor. And I think that we can build a national organization that sets us up for success across the whole across the nation with this sort of general, like, kind of what am I trying to say, with this formula. I think this is the way that we can, you know, build DSA into the organization that can fight for the working class, that can be a political alternative to a flailing Democratic Party and a fascist Republican Party. I think our resolutions this year really reflect this, and I think this is the kind of strong, clear leadership that we need going into this next term. So we build towards May Day 2028. We build those strong ties with labor, and we have a Zoran in every city in America, and we have a DSA chapter that can stand up for the political establishment, against the political establishment in your city, state, and ultimately the country. So I'll leave it there, but it's been really exciting. I love being in Groundwork. I love being in DSA, and I hope you all will consider voting for me for the next NPC.
Thanks, Kareem. DSA, you listen to me. If you're near a convenience store right now, any type of 24-hour store, go into the store right now and put your hand in the cash register for no reason. Their money is your money as of right now. Let's go to Kara.
Amazing. Okay, I love the introduction. I was not prepared for that. Hi, everybody. My name is Kara. Kara Toby. I use she, her pronouns. And I'm coming for you from I'm coming from sorry, Ben, you totally threw me off there. But I'm coming to you all from Metro Detroit DSA, and I am so excited to be here. I'm so excited to build a DSA that really truly works for all. So for those of you who do not know me, I am not saying I'm not encouraging everybody to go stick your hands in every single drawer of money right now. But I am, a current member of the NPC. I actually joined DSA in 2020. And it was right actually during the second Bernie run, and Bernie really inspired me. I had seen advertisements and seen DSA out on the doors. It was also around the same time of the uprisings. At that point, I was living in Louisville, Kentucky, and so we were, on the ground, fighting against, the fascist police in 2020 with the murder of Breonna Taylor, also George Floyd. And that moment really kind of inspired me to, find my political home again. And my political home was in DSA. And at that point, again, I was in Louisville, Kentucky. So I jumped right in. I joined the Louisville chapter. And my time there, I learned so much. Especially being in a red state where, a blue dot in a red state in Louisville, where the political environment there really was not super open to the idea of socialism, but you learned and you dug in, and we built campaigns and that spoke to everyday working class people, that inspired them. We created a labor committee, or the labor committee. I worked as the co-chair of our labor committee for 2 terms there, where we were developing and really building strong ties with and solidarity with labor unions in the city, where I got introduced to our ATU local, Amalgamated Transit Union Local 1447. And through there, in partnership with them, we actually developed a transit campaign in partnership, hand in hand, using Green New Deal, eco-socialist framing to build transit and grow transit in Louisville, Kentucky. That campaign is growing. It was I've unfortunately moved away from Louisville a couple months ago, but I left it in really great hands, and they are really doing an amazing job down there with that transit campaign. But I really being on the NPC, in 2023 to now, it's been so inspiring to me. I think the thing that I've taken away the most out of it is the ability to see and to work with so many members and so many chapters all across the country. Being on the NPC, I'm also our national communications chair. It's the first ever official communications chair for the national organization. Let me tell you what, it's been plenty of ups and downs on this term in dealing with the political environment between the presidential campaign, the genocide happening in Gaza, but also really inspiring to see all the amazing work that's happening across chapters. And so we're really trying to develop, and we're in the process of expanding the National Communications Committee to bring in more member leaders and really try to create these strong ties between the national organization and between chapters and amongst chapters as well. Because, again, our main goal is to build a DSA that works for all, that can become the mass working class socialist party that we need in order to win socialism in our lifetimes, like right now, because we need it. We can't wait any longer. We need all of us to be working together as closely as possible and lockstep. And, you know, being able to have an organization that can say, yes, we're working on all of these things together, that can, you know, develop a strong propaganda arm that is bringing creators and you know, talent like Alejandra's amazing work that she's been doing with her accounts. If we can make that bigger and stronger and go everywhere, then I think, you know, we can accomplish anything, tied in with you know, the state power that we're building with organizing and electing socialist candidates across the country, like Zoran in New York City. Seeing that comms work come to life has been it just incredibly inspiring. So I hope for this next term, over the next 2 years, that we can continue to build out our infrastructure and build these strong connections between chapters and between the national organization, because we need to be that if we're going to grow into a party of the millions. And I'm excited to hopefully continue to do that work. So I'll go ahead and stop there. Well, actually, one last thing, sorry. You know, being in Metro Detroit too, we are really, really lucky and honored to have an incredible voice in Congress for us with Rashida Tlaib. And I think that, you know, there's a lot of opportunity, especially going into next year where she's up for re-election, where DSA can and should be building a stronger relationship between, you know, Rep. Rashida's office and in DC, and also here in Detroit. So I'm hoping that, you know, being in Detroit now, and as we continue to grow and build this mass socialist party, that we can, you know, also support and grow our relationship with Rashida as she fights like hell for the working class in amongst some really terrible humans that are trying to take away so many things from working class people. So now I'll stop. But thanks everyone. We must defend Rashida going into 26 and beyond. And we need to make more Rashidas. We need like 50 more Rashidas. So we have to build the party to make that happen.
Thanks so much, Kara. And you know that Kara's real, because even here in DC, I was talking to an ATU organizer about DSA, and they're like, "Oh, like we love Kara from Louisville." I was like, "How do you know Kara?" And also another thing is after Zoran, the next big electoral thing is going to be our campaign in Detroit, Denzel McCampbell. So watch out for that. So next we have Carl from the District of Columbia. So Carl, take it away.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. And yeah, hi, everybody. My name's Carl Roberts. I use he, him pronouns. I'm currently in the Metro DC chapter of DSA, but I previously was in Tulsa DSA back before that collapsed. And just a little bit about me. So I joined DSA back in 2018 for 2 reasons, right? I was living abroad at the time. I had left after 2016. And didn't think that socialism was like real in America, didn't think it was possible, and that the Bernie campaign in 2016 was maybe just a flash in the pan. And I decided I had to join DSA. I had to get active because I saw what was happening in 2018. I saw the first electoral win in 2017 through this chapter in Northern Virginia. I saw the AOC campaign. I saw, especially importantly, the Rashida campaign, and I saw what DSA was doing to stand up to Trump, to say, no, this country will not be fascist. This country will not stand for the kind of evil behavior, the evil politics that the reactionary party is pushing on us. And I said, I have to get involved. I have to do something. You know, this is real. This is something that I can show up for and work for. So I moved back to the States. I got involved with Tulsa DSA. I knocked doors there in one of the most right-wing cities in the country, where we were able to push an eco-socialist line. I then moved up to DC in 2019 and got to lead our DSA for Bernie work. after Comrade Ben and another comrade were hired off by the Bernie campaign. And that moment has stuck with me in 2020 the entire time, because we got hundreds of people in the DMV to understand themselves as workers, to knock doors across our metro region, and to tell other people about working class politics, socialist politics. We were able to have multi-language Canvas launches. We were able to knock tens of thousands of doors. And we were able to build a leadership pipeline that got people more involved with the chapter. The 3 co-chairs, so the 2 other people I organized with, all ended up being on the chapter steering committee. And there are multiple other cadre members of the chapter who I've known since that campaign for basically my entire time in DSA, because we fought together for working class politics. Since then, I've been on the chapter steering committee, where I did security for our chapter. So like helping set up our vetting process, streamlining that, making it more effective. But also in 2022, when the Dobbs decision leaked, Kareem and I were on the steering committee together. We decided we have to do an emergency protest. And there's a great photo of me breaking up a fight in front of the steering committee, so the Daily Caller reporter there wouldn't get to tell her story about how the evil leftists came and started fights. And then I also got to be our chapter chair last year. And that was when we overtook a different chapter to become the 3rd largest chapter in the country. It is also another, we also had our biggest chapter convention. We had hundreds of people show up for our chapter convention to decide what we were going to do in 2025, to decide how we were going to fight Donald Trump, and how we were going to build more worker power in the DMV. And I'm running because of those same reasons that got me to join DSA way back in 2018, right? We need to be the hub of anti-fascist resistance in this country. We need to be the organization that people say, I'm joining because I hate Donald Trump. And then what we need to do is actually show up and take those people and get them to believe in class politics, to understand themselves as workers, and to fight for workers' rights. The next thing we need to do is also do what Zoran is doing, right? The same people that fund Donald Trump are funding Andrew Cuomo and that wing of the Democratic Party. We need to do what Zoran does and say, no, you all are the same people. You stand for the same thing. You stand for class rule. We stand for the masses, for the majority, and we need to get people to come fight them too, right? And that is creating a third tent pole in American politics for working class politics. It's waking people up to understand their class position as workers, and it's getting them to fight the bosses at the state level, at the level of the street, and at the strike level. And that means making DSA into an organization of millions of people, and I hope to do that. And I hope that you all will show up and vote for me and vote for all of us so that we can make DSA do that. Last thing, Thunder up. We're going to beat the Pacers. We're going to finally win a ring tonight. Fingers crossed we can pull that off.
Thanks, Carl. You probably will now that Halliburton's injured. All right, next we got Eleanor from NYC, and originally from my hometown of Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Went to the same high school, right?
Yes, we did.
Different times though. Also, I'm so sorry in advance if you guys have seen me making crazy faces. It wasn't about any of the speakers. My internet is on the fritz, and I've tried switching to a hotspot. And that's also being problematic now. But hi, I'm Eleanor, she, her. I am in the New York City chapter of DSA in South Brooklyn, the South Brooklyn branch. I joined DSA to get involved with Bernie work like back when I was in YDSA. I was on the organizing committee of my YDSA chapter and was like a field lead for a bunch of like huge Bernie rallies, or sorry, not rallies, a bunch of Bernie canvases. Since then, I've been doing a lot of just like kind of patchwork DSA work, showing up wherever needed, being a field lead here and there. I've been canvassing for Zoran every day for like I don't know how long, the past few weeks. It's been crazy. Today has sort of been like, with this call, it's like the only night I'm not out at the doors. And it's been really exciting talking in the Jacob Rees houses, which are part of NYCHA, and people are just like, I think in a lot of ways more excited than they even were during like the Bernie campaign. I think people feel that there is like an actual chance to like change something on the local level. And yeah, I think like in the next 2 years, we really need to be prioritizing things like that. I think the Zoran campaign has sort of proven that like we can just like do things, and we can do things that like most other organizations in this country can't. I think we're almost like selling ourselves short sometimes when we talk about the Zoran campaign. He's a really great candidate, and his policies definitely do speak to everyday people, but like we are also like putting in the work to like make him the thing, and we can do that in every chapter, and we can make DSA the thing that moves um that like moves voters to the polls, moves workers to like organize their workplaces, whether that's like to organize unions, or even just like if you have a union, organizing your union to endorse a socialist when they endorsed Eric Adams like in the last round, which is what I was a part of doing at my in my union. So yeah, I think like it's we have a lot we can do in the next few years, and I would especially like to see us like building towards May Day 2028. I think right now like we're all super focused in on like these electoral projects, which are going to be super important, but I think like we have so many folks in unions and members in unions in DSA, and I think like this kind of like just getting together and being like, okay, what can we do within our unions is going to be like more important than before. And sorry, what else? Why am I running for NPC? Honestly, I was asked to, and I was told that I should just like say that because I sometimes, I don't know, I don't love running for things, but I do think I have like a lot of great ideas about the future of this organization, and I think it needs to be democratized further. I think the structure we have here in New York City is really great with like one member, one vote. I think that is something that obviously can be replicated across the country. I think yeah, we like can just be going out and doing these very like exciting campaigns and just seeing what happens. And I think that's one of the coolest things about Groundwork is that we're just like, fuck it, let's do it, you know? So yeah.
Fuck it, let's do it. Thank you, Eleanor. Next we got from the Dirty South from Atlanta, Sumter.
Yeah, the dirtiest South. Hi everyone. My name is Sumter. I'm from Atlanta. My pronouns are they, them, and I've been a member of DSA since 2017. However, really, when it comes to the NPC, I'm going to be a vehicle for mass politics thought. So let's start with what is going on with DSA, and then I'll tell you a little bit more about myself. So in 2017, DSA exploded. We gained a ton of new members overnight. And for a brief moment there, it felt like anything was possible in the world, right? We were coming off of the successes of a Bernie Sanders campaign that brought literally millions of people to the ideas of socialism. And we, multiplied our membership by 10. We had multiple campaign successes after that. We built a backbench of electoral organizers. We had victories at campuses across the country. And eventually we grew YDSA from, a couple dozen chapters to over 200 across the country. That was when I was still a college organizer. So since then, I think that there has been a lot of up and down in DSA's trajectory. And, we're now almost a decade after that first Bernie Sanders campaign. And a lot has changed since then. But what has not changed is the fact that DSA still does not have a clear direction, right? We're still kind of a loose affiliation of different socialist groups in a trench coat. And what that means in practice is that we don't have one clear theory of change that is practiced at the national level for all chapters. What we really have is a sense where tons of our members have a belief in socialism. And if you have a belief in socialism, surely that's enough, right? But it's not. What we need is not a belief in socialism. What we need is people who actually practice it and work to implement it. a little bit about the Dirty South. Atlanta, regardless of what the Democratic Party will tell you or the news will tell you, Georgia is not a purple state. We barely eked out a victory over Republicans, if you even want to call it a victory. We barely eked out a victory over Republicans in the Senate a couple times, but our state legislature is still a supermajority Republican, and it's very difficult to pass state law. However, what we've still been able to do, despite the stigma around socialism, is we were able to win a state house seat, the first state house socialist legislator in Georgia in probably ever, actually, I think. And we won it not just in we didn't just flip a seat from a corporate Democrat to a socialist candidate. We actually did it in one of the most rapidly changing counties in Georgia, in Cobb County. So that was a huge success. And I think that if Atlanta can do it, anyone can do it. DSA needs a concrete theory of change. What we need to move from this sense of, if as long as we're part of DSA will keep growing, right? No, it is now our responsibility as people who've been around for a while to make sure that DSA continues to grow and to make sure that DSA wins and actually grows to become a mass organization in the millions. Now, I have been a YDSA organizer. I helped develop YDSA's orientation to labor unions on campus and supporting campus organizers and wall-to-wall campus unions. In my time, we actually helped found one of Georgia Tech's first ever wall-to-wall campus union. That was a very exciting time. We won a couple of other campaigns too, but when the COVID pandemic hit, I got more involved in the Atlanta City chapter, and I helped build up a lot of the basic infrastructure of the chapter. I developed our operations committee. I developed our strike support work through our labor committee. I developed trainings for people to organize unions and organize in their unions if they already have one. And I also became involved in the teachers union in Georgia as well. So I've experienced DSA at a lot of different levels. I've experienced what mass organizing means at a lot of different levels from a lot of different perspectives. And I can tell you that for everyone, it means something a little bit different. And I think it's about time for DSA to get to the point where if someone joins, it doesn't depend on who they talk to. They know that they're joining DSA. They know that they're joining a winning organization, and they know that they are joining a national movement to win everywhere in this country. We're going to have millions of members. We're going to have 50 states of DSA members, and we're going to have one party to run it everywhere. And that's the vision that I have for DSA.
Thanks so much, Sumter. And I want to give another plug for Atlanta. Our good comrade Kelsey is running for city council in Atlanta this year. So I'm going to drop the website there. Donate if you can. Get involved. Come down to Atlanta and canvas or phone bank later this summer. But Atlanta is building something really special, and Sumter's a big part of that. And last but not least, from Los Angeles and New Orleans, we have Francis.
Thanks, Ben. Yeah, I don't know how long I can keep claiming New Orleans, but I will as long as I can. My name's Francis. I live in Los Angeles now, but I first got involved in DSA when I lived in New Orleans. And I saw Benjamin on the call. Shout out to a New Orleans comrade. Yeah, so I got involved in DSA in 2017 after Trump got elected the first time. And at the time, I was really just like so many people, really just freaking out. I was like, this is such a scary moment. Like, what does this mean? Why is this happening? And I was trying to get involved in all different kinds of like political stuff. I didn't know how to do that or what that would even like look like. And I signed up for DSA, and I think I kind of thought I was signing up for like a book club, basically. But I got connected with other folks in New Orleans who had just signed up, and we started talking about trying to form a chapter, and that just changed the course of my life completely. And I think one of the big things that made DSA really stick is that socialism really gives you this, it gives you this analysis about what's going on with the world, why all these bad things are happening. But so much more than that, it gives you the tools and the knowledge that you need to figure out how to change it too. And that was the part that really like changed everything and made it so compelling for me to want to stay in the organization. And I feel like that's also kind of what we talk about when we talk about the DSA difference, which is one of the things that I think really unites all of the folks on the Groundwork slate, is that we really believe in like DSA as the vehicle and DSA as the project, and DSA as the tool that we need as workers in the United States in 2025 to stop the rise of right-wing extremism, the rise of fascism, and all these terrible things that are kind of ongoing right now. I mentioned I'm in Los Angeles, as I'm sure that you've heard on the news recently, and as Alejandra talked about earlier. Los Angeles is the subject of these horrifying military style, like violent ICE raids all across the city right now. And it's been happening since it started almost 2 weeks ago, and it's been happening pretty consistently ever since then. These just like really violent, like ICE comes in to Home Depots or to like a car wash and just like wreaks havoc upon the place, takes people, has been arresting US citizens and non-citizens, like just really, really horrifying stuff. And it's really like incredibly frightening, right? And obviously, we probably all saw on the news, like, handcuffing a sitting US senator, like really next level bad things. But being a part of DSA during this moment has been so grounding and so energizing and so inspiring, because we do have a way of fighting back. And that's just incredibly powerful. So what I've seen the chapter do is like organize Know Your Rights trainings, get plugged in with rapid response efforts. So there's like a rapid response network all across the city where people in neighborhoods all across the city are saying, oh, I think I saw ICE over here. I think I saw, someone in a uniform. Can somebody go check? And like, is it immigration enforcement? And people are running out and checking and seeing and verifying claims, and then like sending out an alert so that people can like get the heck out of Dodge and avoid being detained, or can just, be there to document and respond and monitor the situation. So incredible like rapid response infrastructure, these Know Your Rights trainings, like going out to all these protests. It's really, really, really powerful. And that's like a handful of many, many other things that the chapter has been doing and the city has been doing to fight back. And additionally, because we have gotten 4 people elected to the Los Angeles City Council, we also have this other lever, which is kind of the like state power lever to fight back. So our like city council folks have been able to push legislation through city council to like secure city facilities so that federal agents can't enter into them, and other sorts of things too. So it's really powerful. And I see how much there's so much threat that we're facing right now, but there's also so much opportunity for us to build a better world and to really be able to like come together and fight back. And if you don't have that tool of organization, you're lost without it. And so I think the thing that really unites us across the Groundwork slate, and the thing that makes me want to run again on the NPC, yeah, I didn't mention, but I was on the previous term. So the thing that makes me want to run again is that I believe in what we're doing, and I believe that we can win if we keep fighting. And I'm not going to stop until we do. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
Thank you so much, Francis. All right. So we're gonna have a little Q&A, but we have 7 minutes to do it. So I'm gonna take 2 questions. Okay, looks like we got one from Claire Palmer. There's a question for Francis and everyone. What was one thing that was hard for you in DSA, and how did you learn from it? So does anyone want to take that?
I guess I can jump in. And yeah, I think one thing that is really challenging for it within DSA, and I think it's challenging within like any organizing space at all, is when like interpersonal conflict comes up, right? This is something that it's going to be something that we face all the time. And we have to figure out structures and processes and also like cultural components of just how we are going to address it and deal with it in a healthy and productive way. And so one like piece of work that I've been involved with on the NPC is our grievance committee, which doesn't sound like the sexiest work or the most glamorous, but is actually really, really rewarding, because it's given me an opportunity to help like strengthen those processes for our organization. And I spend a lot of time on the phone with chapters, like talking to them about how to navigate the grievance process, how to address conflict. And it's actually really rewarding and valuable, but I also see how hard it is and how I mean, I've seen it be really corrosive in different spaces across DSA, and also I know chapters really struggle with it. But I think that's something that's really hard that we all kind of go through at some point or another if we stick with the work, and you really, really grow from it too.
Thanks so much, Francis. All right. The next thing I have here is looks like Evan's saying, what will you do as a member of the NPC to build connections with the membership as a whole and to build a truly cohesive DSA?
I can jump in, and related to the last question about things that were hard for you, I'll say now coming up on the end of 2 NPC terms that have had a lot of conflict, like it's a body of 16 people. I've been part of decisions that were, pretty polarizing, that like a bunch of things that passed with, like 7 to 9 or 8 to 9 or just very slim margins. And even now, like I feel like I can defend all of the choices that I made and how I voted, but it was a huge gap, like not having better communication with members. And a lot of that is downstream of like we just don't have good internal communication in DSA. We have, a message board and then Twitter. And there's not really any good structure between 200 chapters all operating in different ways and the national organization. So that that experience on a bunch of votes, like I could tell stories about each one, but just the through line in all of them is that there just should have been more feedback from members, or at least communication from NPC. So that really motivates a lot of the resolutions that we're proposing under the banner of one member, one vote. There's the the members decide resolution that is about setting up a structure to poll members on a regular basis, like all members getting to give input on questions that are laid out in advance. Like it just makes me think, like, for any number of those contentious NPC decisions, what if instead of just having like one very pitched meeting and, a lot of angry email threads and then it spills over onto the message board or Twitter, what if the NPC, identified like, okay, we have a lot of different perspectives here. We don't seem entirely agreed. Maybe we know how we were going to vote anyway, but let's lay out a timeline of a month or two. Lay out the questions for members. Ideally, chapters can talk about it, make a decision, or at least give some feedback, and then send that back to NPC. And then ideally, all members get to do, give feedback by a poll, and that informs the decision that the leadership body makes. That's one thing that going forward, like we hope that resolution passes, but even if it doesn't, we hope people think it's a good idea on the next body. So that's one example.
Thanks so much, Ashik. So this call was supposed to go to 9:30. People can head out if they want, but there's a lot of good questions. So the ones that have been posted till now, I'm gonna toss those out. But stop posting new ones so we don't go too late. Let's see. The next one we have here is from Andre. What have you seen in previous NPCs that you would like to change?
I stacked myself. I can answer this. Yeah, this Kareem from New York. Yeah, I think one thing that's been really exciting in this term has been the Democracy Commission, which has been going on in the background, and I've had a front row seat for this because my partner is one of the Democracy Commissioners. And one of the cool things about the way that that body has worked is that there's a really strong incentive to work together. Like basically, like you have like every sort of ideological faction within DSA coming together for a shared vision, which is this just sort of like restructured DSA project, and saying like we're gonna all work together, good faith, good intentions, to just sort of do like the broadest, least like lowest common denominator reforms to our organization that we can all get across. And I think that's been really inspiring because like one of the things that doesn't really exist on the NPC level is this incentive to work together. There's basically like there's this underlying consistent like just like like incentive to not work together, like to like take things public, like to like give half information to Twitter, half information to the forums, and let an outrage machine spin up. And like, to be clear, everyone is guilty of this. Like this is not like a Groundwork like has just seen everybody else do it. Like we've done it, everyone else has done it. This is like all sides have this incentive to do this. And I think one thing that I think the Democracy Commission has showed us is that it doesn't need to go that way. Since I came on to NPC, I think like, you know, obviously I've come in at like the tail end of this term. So like people I think are a little bit ground down and tired. So I don't want to like have this speak for like all, you know, NPC terms for the future. But I do think like, you know, if we can carry that spirit of like good faith cooperation, you know, into the next term, I think we'll be somewhat successful. I don't think that everyone that I've ever worked with is always acting in good faith, and I'm not going to act like a fool. But I do think that like there is a lack of good faith going around where like there otherwise should be like a pretty good amount of cooperation. So I get why feelings are tense. I get why people, you know, like personally don't like each other. I get why ideological factions don't like each other. But one of the things that, you know, motivated me in Metro DC early on, like as a member, was like this in our code of conduct, we had like assume good faith. And that's just not really happening. I think if we can carry that as like a sort of cornerstone of our approach to national leadership going forward, this assume good faith as a cornerstone, I think we might be pretty successful going into next term, even if we're in the minority, which, you know, hopefully we're in the majority.
Thanks so much.
I can elaborate on that a little bit as someone who was actually on the Democracy Commission as well, if that's okay.
Yes, real quick. Then I'm going to give the final announcements for people who have to go at 9:30, and then we can do a couple more questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that there were two kind of key elements of the Democracy Commission that encouraged the dynamic that Kareem was talking about. And, you know, I spent 18 months on the body. I was there for the whole process, and it was very collaborative for the most part. But yeah, I mean, at the beginning, there were high tensions. Maybe I'll address that three things that were really helpful. Number one, we talked about norms at the very beginning of the formation of the body, and we were actually able to adhere to those norms and point to them throughout the duration of our work to make sure that we were actually all following what we all said we believed in. And you know, I don't know exactly what that process looks like on the NPC, but you know, I know that some people claim that they have a mandate to do X, Y, Z. But you know, the reality is that their only mandate is to make sure that DSA works properly. I would say that number two, everyone had work that they had to complete. Everyone had a portfolio of work that they had that they were responsible for, and that meant that everyone was accountable to like some part of the shared project, right? And if they didn't pull their weight, then that was apparent because they didn't show up to the table. And I think number three is that because we had a shared project, we had something that we needed to put on the table at the end of our work. And you know, I'd be really interested to see what the next NPC will do for that.
Thanks so much, Sumter. So I want to give just some quick wrap-up announcements. So first, here, go to groundworkdsa.com. You can see our resolutions. Soon you'll be able to see our slate. You can sign up to be a member or a supporter, which I highly encourage. The next thing is, if you're in your chapter and your delegation, set up a virtual meeting for the slate to come speak to your delegation and like really have a good like heart to heart with the members of your delegation and talk to them about our vision for DSA and their vision for DSA and where it aligns. The next thing is, if you're coming to the convention, we're gonna have a social on Thursday night before the convention. You should come Thursday because voting starts at 9 a.m. Friday. So don't fly in Friday. Also, please reach out to connect us directly to have one-on-ones if you're a delegate or with any delegate you want. And finally, we're gonna drop some amendments soon, so please stay tuned to sign those. All right, gosh, we got a lot of questions. I'm gonna try and get us out of here by 9:40, just so we don't go too long. Okay, let's see. This is an interesting one. Can you talk about how you see the organizing potential among the rural and at-large membership?
Yeah, I would love to talk about that. I really do think there's a lot of opportunity in rural areas and in at-large spaces more broadly. And I think that this is part of what is so important about these next 2 years is we have to really, in this next NPC term, build out some good, strong infrastructure at the national level, but also we should be encouraging and helping provide national support to build out state level structures as well. Because DSA, I think we're in all 50 states, which is extremely exciting, including in Hawaii. And most states do have a pretty solid chapter that helps like found a lot of democratic socialist organizing in the state. And we're seeing it in Michigan, we're seeing it in Kentucky, we're seeing it everywhere, that when new organizing committees show up, they can be supported so much better if they've got some really strong support from local chapters as well. So we really do, we put forward this really great resolution for a 50 state strategy that you can find on our website. But I do think this is a really good entry point and a really great way to kick off, the organizing that can, or really just support the organizing that's already happening in at-large and rural spaces, to really tie that into a state level spot, but then also a national level spot as well. I think that there is also really strong opportunity for, when chapters are doing those 50 state or doing a state level organizing, it makes it so much easier to be able to say like, hey, let's work on this state level project together. There might be a ballot initiative that goes across the entire state, like how we had in Kentucky to protect abortion. We can tie chapters into these spaces. We have state level campaigns and at-large members and in rural areas as well, to plug in and get involved in state level campaigns in addition to local organizing. Socialists exist everywhere. They exist in big cities, they exist in small cities, red states, blue states, purple states. We're in the countryside. We're also, we're out on the ocean. We're everywhere, right? And so therefore, there's no reason why we can't be supporting and growing socialism everywhere as well. So it's just, we need to build the structures to make that happen.
All right, I'm going to take, I guess, one last question from Mark. Do you favor organizing within a mass popular front resistance to MAGA or organizing separately?
I think both Eleanor and I have a little bit to add there. So I'm just going to be really brief and then pass it over to her. But on Inauguration Day weekend, I was really happy to organize with Ashik, with Kara, with multiple people here in DC, to go to multiple protests in DC, right? There was a redo of the Women's March called the People's March. And we went to that. That was kind of mass popular front, and then we went to a much smaller one that had a more of a Palestine focus. And I think it's really important that we recognize we can do both of these things. It's very much a walk and chew bubblegum at the same time. The important thing is that we lead those. We make sure we have our speakers. We make sure we're recruiting at them, and we also make sure that we're like the ones who are setting them up in the first place, right? We should be setting up stuff like No Kings. We should be setting up stuff that's smaller and more direct. I'm going to pass it over to Eleanor.
Eleanor, go for it.
Sorry, my computer's freezing again, so I couldn't tell if Carl was done. Yeah, I don't have like that much more to add, other than the fact that we should absolutely be in a popular front or a coalition, what have you, with anywhere where the masses are, whether that is, a No Kings protest, a protest for Palestine. If there are a lot of people there, that is clearly something people care about. Like, we need to be showing up, and we need to be showing up, I think, like as DSA, very like confidently, like saying like, these are our politics, like sorry, having like certain things that we believe in, that like we're like able to show up with and like very proudly like state. And I think part of being able to like have our own identity within a coalition is also like, it requires us to have the numbers and to like be able to say like, you guys actually want us in this coalition. And also I think like the last thing I would add is like, it's really important that we're there, because oftentimes these like protest movements or other sort of like mass movements, mass organizations, apart from unions, are not always very democratic. And it's like very important that we like come there and we're like hey, like this is how we can make it democratic. This is how we can move forward in a way where every voice is counted and heard.
Thanks. Kareem, I heard you got 3 sentences to cap this off.
Yeah, just like really, really quickly, I just want to sort of talk about like practical terms of what this looks like. Like having DSA lead any popular front, I think, is a precondition for coalition work. Or not necessarily like a total precondition, but like DSA should be leading. We should, like, if we're going to be engaging in coalition work, we need to make sure that it is explicitly socialist. Zoran is doing this, and like this in like really practical terms doing this, right? Like where we are the explicit anti-Cuomo leader at this point. And if you want to fight against just sort of like the bastion of reaction, then you have to be behind Zoran. Practical terms of what a popular front looks like right now is the fact that Brad Lander and Michael Blake, and even though she's being evil about it right now, like even Adrienne Adams, like all of these people de facto have to follow DSA's lead, because the alternative is this evil guy whose experience is leading the evil department, right? So like if you want a popular front, like we need a popular front, and we need to like bring in new people into the movement. And the way that we do that is we lead with our politics. We show that we have the momentum, and then we have progressives who aren't necessarily democratic socialists submit to the discipline of the democratic socialist movement by endorsing our candidates, by throwing their weight behind it, and then ultimately saying like we'd prefer the democratic socialist over the evil Democrat.
Thanks so much, Kareem. All right, it's 9:41, so we're a little over time. Thanks for those who stayed, and like people asked so many good questions that we thought it would be good to go over a little bit. So thanks to those of you that gave up a little extra of your time. But thank you so much for coming out. I had a great time. Do all the things that I asked. Click on those links. Check out our program for DSA in 2025. Our program for building a DSA in the millions in the very near term, for an ambitious DSA, for a DSA that wins, for a DSA that's for all and is democratic. And thank you all so much for coming out tonight. And yeah, phone bank and canvas for Zoran by Tuesday if you can. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye. Thank you all.
Thanks,
Good luck,
everybody.
everyone.